We're not proselytizing today. We're just going to have a conversation. So thank you for being here, Rabbi Gelman. I appreciate it a lot.
Pleasure.
How are you holding up?
We're doing okay. We're getting ready to open up on Wednesday night with a parking lot minion. So
Tell us a
that's
little.
what
Yeah.
that's what I've been busy with, other than teaching and trying to keep people connected and all the all the things that all the congregations are trying to do during this very, very weird time to be in congregational life.
Yeah. And right. So we have a Zoom minions happening where we're enabling Kaddish and have kind of reached sort of a status, sort of a um, but you have some urgency because you're not halachically doing that. So yeah, I guess you're feeling some urgency to get together and have a proper minyan.
Some people are feeling a sense of urgency to get together. I'm definitely more cautious than a lot of others. Um, but since it's we're able to do this in a very safe way with a lot of social distancing, a car between each person or
Describe
each family unit.
the plan. I read the email.
Um,
Describe the plan.
I could share the picture with you if you'd like
Sure.
on the screen.
Yeah, sure.
Would that work?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me see if uh,
Yeah.
let me
Yeah.
do that here. I think I could share the screen. Oh no, it's disabled, the screen sharing.
So Maya
So
will make you a co-host. There you go.
here we go. So here has it look. Here is how it looks.
Look at you.
You
Yeah.
drive in on Braeswood, and this side over here is where the men's cars will park, and everyone has a spot, and next to their spot is a cone, and you stand where the cone is to daven, or you can bring a chair. And this side is the women's side, equal number of cars and spots on each side. And
Okay.
I'll be over here with a megaphone, uh, leading davening, and we'll see how that goes. Starting tomorrow night, you got to register in advance. And
Are there?
what's that?
How many spots are there?
12 each.
12 each. And then, yeah, Andy Hoffman has a question, right? What if families come together in the same car? Yeah,
They
how does that
can't.
work?
Men and women have to come in separate cars. If
Separate.
there's only one, that's not a religious thing as much as it is since we're having separate sides. For
Okay.
safety, we don't want people roaming around and interacting with each other. But if people only have one car, then we'll figure out a way to make it work. But ideally, every every group of people should come in their own car,
Have a group in there. Okay. All
and
right.
you should only come in one car if you're living in the same household with those people.
Gotcha. All right. So today, normally when we ask you to teach and when you're in community situations, you're usually teaching texts. You have a topic. So the topic today is you and your shul.
Wow.
So tell us a little bit about, and we're going to sort of do interview style with your permission.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up and what kind of Jewish home and environment you grew up in.
Sure. First of all, thank you for inviting me. This is great, great idea, and I'm probably the only one you're paying, right, to do this. Everyone else has
We talked
probably been free, so I really appreciate that, considering the budgetary crunch. And thank you for speaking to my agent.
generous.
Yeah, so I grew up in Oceanside, Long Island, a town that was before it was called Oceanside, it was called Christian Hook. Um, Oceanside, Long Island, which it was a very idyllic, protected type of place. I'll give you just an example of the type of town it was, and you'll draw your own conclusions. My gardener was a white Jew. So I'm just going to leave it at that in terms of understanding the type of neighborhood and community and setting that I grew up in.
Yeah,
Um,
very insular.
Yeah, Oceanside, Long Island was a great place to grow up. I attended the Young Israel of Oceanside, which was a shul that was full of young kids and growing, and we had a very active youth program. I went to the Hebrew Academy of Long Beach for elementary school.
A lot of Anim Smiros and junior gabbaying.
Yeah, junior congregation. I was a group leader on Shabbat afternoon and teen minion. Very, very robust
Gotcha.
type of community. No kosher restaurants in Oceanside, really. They were in neighboring Jewish communities. Um, and I went to school, elementary school, the Hebrew Academy of Long Beach, which was in Long Beach, New York, where our building was right on the beach. It was beautiful. And then I went to the Hebrew Academy of the Five Towns in Rockaway, known as Hafter, for high school. Similar type of places, co-ed, um, day school, sort of like Barron, and
Bigger.
half the day, Judaic studies, half the day general studies, basketball team, hockey. I played on the hockey team in high school, floor hockey team,
Yeah.
and
I
and
mentioned
also
when we play Jewish geography with people, I mention your name and they always say goalie, hockey goalie. Then that's
right,
right.
yes, and then all throughout this time, I also attended Jewish sleepaway camps, modern Orthodox sleepaway camps. First, Camp Morashah, which was affiliated with Yeshiva University, and then Camp Lavi, which was private. And those were very formative experiences in terms of my Jewish communal involvement. Um, so that's the sort of the early part. I don't know how I don't know if you want me to
Uh,
continue on. So
where was yeshiva? Gap year?
after that's right. After high school, I went to yeshiva for a year and a half in Yerushalayim, a yeshiva called Beit Midrash Torah (BMT), which alternatively stood for Basketball Means Torah or Best Meal in Town, depending. And I went there for a year and a half. Most people stayed back then only for a year. Now it's more common to stay for 2 years, but I stayed for a year and a half and developed my closest relationship with a rabbinic mentor there during that period of time with Rabbi Benny Eisner of blessed memory. I became very attracted to his teaching and his more than his teaching, his just general personality was a very magnetic personality. Um, an interesting side point, I guess, is that I didn't realize the nuance of this. It took me a little while to understand this, but he really represents the very pretty far right aspect of Israeli politics in terms of uh, Judea and Samaria, occupation, Yehuda, Shomron, whatever we want to call it. The real messianist, a Cookian messianist.
Wow.
Really, really believed that we were in the messianic era. And only later on my own, when I started doing more critical thinking, did I sort of veer from that. But we always remained very, very close, and I still consider him to be the most important religious person in terms of the most important religious influencer in my life.
And so that means Zionism and Zionut are a big part of it.
Yes, my home was always very Zionistic. My mother's family went through the Shoah, and so a homeland for the Jewish people was a big deal. So it was a very Zionist home, and the schools I went to, and the shul, and the camps were all very Zionistic. But I didn't attach sort of like a theology to it until those years. I don't remember learning any Rav Kook or Rav Soloveitchik on Zionism or anything like that in high school. When I got to yeshiva in Israel, that's where we shared a Beit Midrash with the Yeshiva University Kollel, so there was a heavy Rav Soloveitchik influence in the room. And so we were able to sort of attach Rav Soloveitchik's philosophy to Zionism, and through my Rebbe, Rav Kook's philosophy towards Zionism. So that's where my Zionism sort of became not only sort of activist, but also, I guess, theological.
Was Yeshiva University sort of a no-brainer?
So it wasn't at first. After I graduated high school, I was planning on going to Queens College, one of the city colleges of New York branches, and thinking of being a lawyer. And then I went to, and that's when things changed. When I went to that year and a half in yeshiva in Israel. At that point, I wasn't giving up on deciding to go to law school, but I decided I wanted to continue my Torah studies in post-Israel. So I switched to Yeshiva University. And then once I was in Yeshiva University, I got involved in a lot of student teaching in a lot of different settings. Whether going back to my old high school, they had a program where they paired up high school graduates, Yeshiva University college students with their old high schools. So I went back there. There's something called Yeshiva High School Seminar, where high school students come for a weekend of informal education. I started taking on leadership roles there. I went to Australia on a program called Counterpoint to do informal education there. And as I started doing more and more of this teaching, I really fell in love with teaching and with learning. And so I switched gears and decided to, instead of going to law school, to stay on at Yeshiva University and attend their rabbinical school.
Beautiful. All right, let's extend out to modern Orthodoxy in general. You seem to be a rabbi who's deliberate and thoughtful about your Orthodox Jewish practice, which is to say, I suppose due to the setting you're in at UOS, which is a very community-minded and open Orthodox history with Rabbi Radinsky, sort of in that setting, and also your association with Riverdale and what's it called? What's the name of the show? Hebrew
Institute of Riverdale.
It's HIR, Hebrew Institute of Riverdale.
HIR, right.
About Avi Weiss and Riverdale and open Orthodoxy, and let's start there. What does open Orthodoxy mean to you, and does it resonate with you as a hashkafa?
So just for the point of clarification, so UOS considers itself modern Orthodox, not open Orthodox. What the difference is a good question.
Yeah, tell us about Orthodoxy and open Orthodoxy.
And it's interesting that the open Orthodoxy has also taken a little bit of, has undergone some changes, even though it's a relatively new term. When Rabbi Weiss founded Chovevei Torah 20 years ago as a alternate modern Orthodox alternative to other yeshivot, most largely Yeshiva University, he used the word open Orthodox and wrote an article on open Orthodoxy that I helped him with. The term open Orthodoxy is not even used on, as far as I know, anymore by Chovevei Torah or on the website of Chovevei Torah. It became a little bit of a sort of a complicated term. What's the difference between open Orthodoxy and modern Orthodoxy? And I think now, I'll try to come back and answer the question, but I think now in this whole question of the alphabet soup, modern Orthodox, open Orthodox, I think now most of the focus is on not so much how one labels themselves, but on what one does, and what practices take place in a certain synagogue and what practices don't take place in a certain synagogue.
We'll get there in a minute, but how about explain through narrative, like your association with Avi Weiss.
So my association with Avi Weiss was very interesting. I really did not know anything about him. I have to tell you. I was getting ready to graduate Yeshiva University. I'm sorry, rabbinical school at YU, at Brith, the Rabbi Isaac Al Theological Seminary. I was getting ready to graduate, and like any other graduate, I went to the placement office, and I'm like, I want to be placed somewhere. Where should I go? And I started talking to the placement director about, you get to know these guys, and they get to know, the students and the graduates and the general hashkafa, the general philosophical leanings. And he recommended a few shuls that I interview in. And one of them was HIR. He was in Riverdale with Avi Weiss. And like I said, I didn't really know anything about him, but I went there, I interviewed. I remember the interview very, very carefully, very closely to this day. It was in his living room. He had his guitar out. We sang a little bit, sang some nigunim. We talked a little bit about Judaism and about my thoughts on philosophy of Judaism and life. I had been the rabbinic intern that past year at Congregation Beth Shalom in Lawrence, New York, while I was teaching at a local Jewish day school my last year. And the rabbi of that shul, Rabbi Kenny Hain, was very friendly with Rabbi Weiss. And basically, Rabbi Weiss said, I got this great recommendation from Kenny Hain. He basically told me that I could leave on your first week here. I could take a vacation on your first week here, which actually he did, by the way, which is another story. And he said, and that was it. I had the interview. I think the next day or the day after, he called me and offered me the position. I still really did not have a handle on who he was. I didn't understand this great activism.
Looking back on it, what role did he play in modern Orthodox history, or does he play in modern Orthodox history?
So Rabbi Weiss has played a very important and varied role in modern Orthodox history. First of all, he was one of the spearheads between the student struggle for Soviet Jewry, which is very much viewed as one of the major forces that led to bringing down the Iron Curtain. And he will go down in history as a major mover in that realm, as well as in many other activist realms. In terms of modern Orthodoxy, up until the founding of Chovevei Torah, Rabbi Weiss's shul, HIR, was sort of the testing ground for anything that was new in the modern Orthodox world, whether it was women's tefillah groups, whether it was splitting the shul, the mechitza, down the middle with men and women with equal sight lines and equal seating on both sides, with having women speak from the sanctuary, with women's Megillah reading.
Carrying the Torah through the women. That was a testing ground where all these things were happening. And so, yeah, and a lot of us learned from him. Rabbi Weiss had a long line of assistant rabbis and associate rabbis. And then 20 years ago, he opened Chovevei Torah, and that's when it became sort of more out there, his general approach. And he started training rabbis in his approach to halacha, his approach to community, his approach to interfaith, his approach to denominational relationships. And so sorry? As an alternative to Yeshiva University?
For many, it was seen as an alternative to Yeshiva University. Some students didn't feel comfortable at Yeshiva University for any number of reasons. Different yeshivot have characters, and so they attract people for lots of different reasons. So Rabbi Weiss went from sort of training rabbis informally in his own in the setting of the HIR to training rabbis more formally in the setting of Chovevei Torah.
And a lot of the examples that you use for progressive envelope pushing, it has to do with women's roles in Judaism.
There is, yeah. I mean, he definitely was and remains, I guess, the tip of the spear, very, 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 very ahead in terms of those things. Although now his students are picking it up and also, looking at those issues from the lens of their specific community. Once they've left the yeshiva or they've left their internship opportunities or whatever they're working at HIR. So a lot of it was, like I said, related to women, but some of it was also related to interdenominational things and interfaith and interfaith things. I think Geirut also was an area, conversion also was an area where, together with some of his colleagues, Rabbi Weiss also was trying to forge new path, to forge a new ground in terms of understanding how a conversion process can go.
Okay, so two examples that are happening at UOS. One of them is the hiring of a new woman leader. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So a little less than a year ago, we hired Ruthie Shulman to be our director of education and engagement. Um, it wasn't the first time that I looked into the possibility of hiring a female to work alongside me in the educational realm of the congregation. But this time, sort of everything fell in place, and at right place, right time. And these things happen sometimes. They're a little fluky. We advertised the position, and we were looking for the best person, and actually looking for a couple. I don't forget all the details. Someone showed me Ruthie's resume, and it was perfect. And to tell you the truth, the discussion about hiring Ruthie was not really focused at all on the fact that she was a woman. It was just a question of whether it was a resume question, right? And then there was no doubt that she was the right person for this position. So even while in the past there may have been some hesitancy along those lines, as years progressed, people became more comfortable with it. It seems like it's a pretty natural fit, and does not seem at all to be out of the ordinary.
What sorts of roles does she take on in the community life of the shul?
So Ruthie is focused on education across all adult education across all realms of the shul. Now with Corona, she's taken on some other roles and helping other areas of programming as well. But educational roles across the entire realm of the congregation, all age groups, all denominations, male, female. She's taught classes. She's developed classes. She has, like the rest of us in this work, a lot of organizational responsibilities as well. She gives sermons from the pulpit from time to time. Teaches from the pulpit, teaches from classrooms. Anything that I do in the realm of education, Ruthie does as well.
Beautiful. And so the other area that UOS excels is being part of the community lifeblood of the Houston Jewish community, particularly in terms of the mikveh. Can you tell us about, so you mentioned sort of interdenominational work. You mentioned interfaith work, but let's start with interdenominational. Tell us a little bit about the mikveh's commitment to the community and yours.
So, conversion starts with interfaith, I guess, some way. So we are very, very proud to host. We are very, very proud to host the communal mikveh. It's the UOS mikveh, but it's supported in part by all the other congregations, which makes it a communal mikveh, which means it's open to life cycles and conversions from all the other congregations in the city. I inherited that from Rabbi Radinsky, but I support it, and I'm so happy about it. 100%. It's just one of the ways that we sort of illustrate that we are part of the overall Jewish community, and that ultimately we all have the same goals, right? Ultimately, our goals are to bring as many people into active and robust Jewish life as possible. I would say that's probably a fair mission statement for every single synagogue in the city. So on that sense, we're all in the same boat. And it's true that we have differences. Some of them are significant, some of them are less significant, but we have to start with the base point that we all have a fundamental goal, which is to, like I said, to include as many people in a robust Jewish life as possible. And so having a mikveh open to other congregations is part of our commitment to that. My participation in the Houston Rabbinical Association is another aspect of that, and just general cooperation and relationship building with all the rabbis in the city is an aspect of that too.
Yeah, so I have two quick stories. One of them is my first time I called UOS to use the mikvah. It was for the conversion of an adopted baby. A gay couple had adopted a baby, and now it's time for the conversion. So I called, UOS, cold called UOS. Just want to make sure that it's community mikvah, and it was, and we did. So thank you for that. The other story is I remember running into you at a memorial service for Debbie Friedman at Beth Israel,
Right.
which I thought was
Yeah.
a very bold place for you to be.
It was a what place?
Bold. It was a bold move for you to
Oh,
show
ah,
up to that
okay.
environment.
Well,
For an Orthodox rabbi, I would think it's unique.
I was probably the only Orthodox rabbi there.
Probably.
So, yeah,
Uh,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
That
that
choice,
was it.
stepping into a reform shul is somewhat. I don't think it's many or some Orthodox rabbis wouldn't do that in the first place. And then the issues of appreciating her music and her life mission.
Yeah, well, I think it's a few things. It's appreciating her music and life mission, and I've been touched by her music as well. And I know that her death was very, very personally difficult for many of my colleagues.
Hmm.
And I felt going there was a way to support my colleagues as well at a time when they were hurting. And I don't think it's always a good idea to do that.
Very good. Thank you. Beautifully said. So let's talk about modern issues in modern Orthodoxy, contemporary issues. So what are some of the things, the points of contention that are flaring up these days? So give us some insight into modern Orthodoxy, pessimism, optimism, and what are some of the controversial topics that come up?
Um, so I think the general health of modern Orthodoxy is good. Um, uh, Modern Orthodoxy in the East Coast, if you just look at the number of schools and the number of shuls and the amounts of people involved in all of those things and the Torah programs and camps and kollels that exist in shuls and daf yomi, it's booming. It's booming, and the the um, the experiment of modern orthodoxy has has I think by those numbers has been a huge success. I think that there's a lot of bleed between modern orthodoxy and right wing light, whatever you want to call it. I don't think the separation is so 100% foolproof, waterproof, if you will. There's a lot of, like I said, overlap at the edges, that's wonderful, which I alluded to before. I think there's a lot less focus on the ideological and a lot more focus um, on what's happening on the ground. I think modern orthodoxy in communities outside of the heart of, let's say, the East Coast and, let's say, Los Angeles on the West Coast, that's a little bit more of a challenging prospect in the sense that the numbers are hard to come by, and a lot of institutions survive based on numbers, on dues paying or paying patrons, and so that's difficult because modern Orthodoxy does still play a very niche role in the American Jewish landscape, right? It's somewhere between, right-wing conservative and left-wing Orthodox. Uh, it's committed to, let's say, an Orthodox definition of halacha, but also open to roles for women and some of the other things that we've talked about. And so since its ideology and its philosophy is broad and not 100% easy to fit into any one basket, it's hard for people to say that's who I am, and so
Hmm.
um, getting those. So that's a challenge in general in modern Orthodoxy, and I think UOS is an excellent example of it in the sense that we have a large number of our members who are observant in an Orthodox sense. We also have many members who are um, who would characterize themselves as Orthodox, as observant, but in a different sense. Maybe observant more in the sense that many of your members are observant. Um, and So we have a nice mix of that in our congregation, but the numbers of the pure the pure modern Orthodox, right? Those are harder to come by outside of the major centers, and that's a general uh, challenge that we face.
And when you talk about the different camps of sort of categories of behavior, what kinds of camps are we looking at in the Orthodox community?
Well,
We have like,
there's
say, Young Israel and UOS, Fondren and, right, Phrasewood.
right. I mean, there are. It's hard to, I really believe that many people in the Young Israel would categorize themselves as modern Orthodox, and I think that would be correct. I think many would not, but many would. Um, and People, one of also the interesting challenges here in Houston is that UOS is alone. We are geographically isolated from the other Orthodox neighborhoods. Meyerland is also has an Orthodox synagogue. It's also isolated, but Fondren, which has a number of Orthodox synagogues, right, we're isolated from that. So when someone comes to Houston, they have to decide where they're going to live. Either they have to decide where they're going to daven based on where they're going to live, or they have to decide where they're going to live based on where they want to daven.
Usually, which
Uh,
one first?
it depends. There are lots of factors. There are factors of where you want to send your kid to, and also where you want to send your kid to school. That's another factor. And there are factors in terms of cost and the housing availability and what kind of neighborhood you want to live in, how close to the medical center you want to be. There are lots of other factors, but I find it a little bit sad that we can't have more of more of this overlap, and you can't be in the same neighborhood and and uh, and then choose where to daven at any given time. I'm in the mood for this Shabbos. I'm in the mood for this another Shabbos, right? In other areas in New York, people are members of two or three shuls, and they daven where they daven. A few months ago, when we had the Siyum Hashas, the completion of the Talmud after the Daf Yomi cycle, so the Young Israel held a celebration. So I went to the celebration, and I was asked to say a few words, and the first thing I said, which I think is the most important thing I said, was I really don't like that people consider us two different communities. We are one community that happen to daven in different shuls. Um, and so that's a little bit of a challenge, I know that's a tangent, just a local issue.
Right. And in a halachic way, can you describe what's the difference between mainstream Orthodox and no, I'm sorry, mainstream Orthodox and modern Orthodox in terms of halachic decision making?
I'd say one of the main factors is taking in sociological realities in terms of how we look at halachic decisions. A lot of this plays itself out in the role of women and Judaism, but it also plays itself out in other areas as well. It plays itself out in areas of, right now, one of the hot issues in halacha is electricity. And where is the use of electricity going to fall on the halachic map? Because in the old days, electricity meant, an incandescent bulb, which almost every Orthodox figure considers to be a real halachic problem. But now, with smart houses and LED lights and fluorescent lights and all other types of electronic devices that do not generate heat and do not generate the type of prohibition which was originally involved when electricity was first discussed. So that is opening up again. Now, these things have been around for a long time, like an automatic door opener. And a very, very contemporary, like literally today example is, we're building a new shul, right? And so it'd be, from a hygienic perspective and a perspective of not spreading germs, it'd be much better if all the toilets were automatic flush, right? But until yesterday, those were clearly not allowed because they are electric. But now, I don't know, right? If we're going to do everything possible to keep people safe and not spreading germs, the less things that we touch, right? These things maybe at first were installed because it saves money, because if you don't forget to turn off the sink, but they have this added benefit now, right, of being safer. So that's a question about where electricity is is falling, and there are some, mostly in Israel, notably Nachum Rabinovich, blessed memory, just passed away about 10 days ago. He was really a trailblazer in this and really had a lot of interesting things to say about it. So that's another area. That's a sociological, scientific reality that I think some camps are quicker to consider when doing halacha.
The modern Orthodoxy is willing to consider these scientific realities and sociological realities, whereas mainstream Orthodoxy would have a harder time evolving.
I think it's much slower. It's much slower. I think the modern Orthodox camp is a little quicker to take those things on, and other camps are definitely slower. Yeah.
Right, and some just won't. That won't be happening.
I think even if we look at the most Haredi communities, I think they may not talk about it so much in public, but I think in private conversations and things like that, really everyone is modern Orthodox. You can't avoid it. The question is how public you are about it and how fast you are to adapt.
That's interesting. So in other words, everybody adapts. The question is, are you doing it deliberately or secretly or subconsciously or consciously?
Right.
Interesting. So we're all conservative Jews in the end. Is that what you're saying?
No comment.
All right. So last question, and then we'll open it up for everybody. Here we go. Pluralism and orthodoxy, right? So seems to me that mainstream Orthodox folks have a hard time really appreciating and validating other streams of Judaism. Tell us a little bit about Rabbi Radinsky and Rabbi Weiss and your influences that have...
All right. Well, before I do that, I just have to say to Peter that your bookshelves behind you are making me jealous. I have some nice bookshelves behind me too, but not like that. And that's nice. You made me jealous today. All right, I pinned your video for a minute. Okay.
Nice.
That's Peter Gingis, if I'm pronouncing it properly.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that inspiration. All right, so um, okay, so I'm sorry. Could you ask your question again,
Yeah.
Rabbi?
Pluralism and orthodoxy. And what are the limits to being fully pluralistic in an Orthodox perspective?
Do you want
And
to define pluralism?
yeah, thank you. Good question.
The
Uh,
delay tactic.
yeah, respect, appreciating, validating, validating. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. The validation of other streams of Judaism, recognition and validation.
So, like I said before, I really, really, truly believe that all the denominations are after the same thing. We are after the most robust Jewish life possible for every individual.
And I guess the second part of the question is, in what ways do you align yourself with the Orthodoxy? In what ways are you sort of,
Can you hear me?
in what ways do you align yourself with an Orthodox perspective of Buddhism? In what ways are you unique in among your colleagues?
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, so I really believe, like I said, we're all in this together. I also do not for a second believe that everybody can be Orthodox.
Hmm.
Um, I just I some people and I don't believe that everyone can be Reform or conservative either. But from my perspective, people say, "Would you want everyone to be Orthodox?" I say, "I want everyone to be observant." And I want everyone to be observant, but I also know that not everyone is going to be observant like I am, and therefore I want people to be as engaged as they possibly can. Rabbi Aaron Lichtenstein once said something along these lines. It's not a quote. He said, "I certainly." Well, I'll say this, and I'm channeling what I believe Rabbi Lichtenstein said. I certainly would rather someone in a conservative or reform synagogue on Shabbat than at the golf course or at the mall. I, I hope that comes. I hope that comes through the way it's meant to come through, because I believe that those places provide a a legitimate religious experience and a meaningful and religiously meaningful religious experience. I've learned a lot of this that as a member of UOS, who's also a member of Emmanuel, and every Shabbat he's at Emmanuel and he teaches at Emmanuel and he goes to Torah study in Emmanuel, but he comes to daily minyan at UOS, not Shabbos. He goes to daily, and I've learned a tremendous amount from that experience, from listening to him, listening to his commitment. He's a 100% committed Jew. He goes to shul every Shabbos. He goes to learn every Shabbos. He learns multiple times a week. He leads. He teaches. Um, and just by listening to him, I've come to that appreciation. Um, so is this different than an outlook that some other Orthodox rabbis have? I think so. I think other Orthodox rabbis may have a different view of the religious value of other denominational experiences, whether or not people consider themselves partners with their non-Orthodox colleagues in town. I don't know. I can't answer for them, but I'm very comfortable um, with with this position. I really believe that it's true. I can't imagine someone would think, "Oh, this conservative rabbi, this reform rabbi, is out to destroy Judaism." That's absurd. It's the silliest thing I've ever heard. Um, and like I said, we don't have to water down the differences we have. I don't think we do when the HRA meets and we discuss. I don't think we hide behind any fake niceties, and we disagree where we disagree, but we really believe that we're in this to make Houston the best Jewish city possible.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. A couple of questions, and then we'll get to Martin. Hold on one second. So Marion wants to know when Ruthie teaches, what does she teach from the pulpit in a mixed group or just for women? Like how far does this go?
No, she teaches when she gives a sermon. It's on Shabbat morning from the pulpit to everybody, like I would. And classes that we have, some are co-ed, some are men only, some are women only. She does it all.
Beautiful. What's your comfort level with Zoom, first of all, during the week and then on Shabbat in terms of making
So,
a menu?
so we've been doing Zoom services every single day except for Shabbat since the shutdown. We do not consider it a minyan, so we do not. So even if we have a minyan, what would constitute a minyan on Zoom, we do not say those things that require a minyan. I was an early adapter to something called the substitute Kaddish, which is a few texts which from the Middle Ages that were written for people who can't say Kaddish, but it's sort of like a substitute. So we've been using those every morning. When we start doing our parking lot services, that will change because once there's a minyan present, then those on Zoom can say Kaddish and can answer and can participate. So
You're also going to the parking lot minion?
we're going to Zoom the parking lot minyan for the time being because it's for a few reasons. Vulnerable people don't want to come, and it's a very limited amount of people. And I would imagine we're going to Zoom services on weekday services when we go back into the sanctuary as well for a while, so that people who are unable to come can then they'll be participating in a full minyan.
What will you be doing on Shabbat?
So we haven't talked about once we go back for Shabbat, we're going to do socially distant with a limited number of people, but we won't be Zooming that.
Not going back to Shabbat right now?
No, not right now.
Gotcha. All right, and then, all right, let's open it up a little bit. Martin has a question. You want to?
Rabbi Gelman, I have a question about the Eruvs in Houston.
Okay.
My daughter and son-in-law visited us. We live just on the west side of Young Israel, of Beth Israel. They can't even go to the Maryland Minyan because they're observant, because it's just outside Tchum. And the question I have is, I know there were debates in New York about whether the whole of Manhattan could be a Tchum, right? What's preventing the Houston community from creating an Eruv that constitutes most of the community to make for more flexibility?
So that's a great question. Just to clarify, they're not outside the Tchum. The Tchum really is a much bigger area than that. They're outside the Eruv.
Eruv, outside the Eruv, yeah.
And they can go to Maryland Minyan, they just can't carry anything to Maryland.
Yeah, but they can't push a stroller there.
Yeah, then you keep the kids. You should watch the kids.
Right.
That wasn't the question.
But the question is, what's
I know that wasn't the
together
question, but I'm
creating
trying to
a
give you
bigger
more.
Eruv?
I'm giving you the opportunity to have more time alone with your grandchildren. You should thank me.
Describe
Yeah. So what's keeping the neighbor? The truth is, that's a great idea. It's something that maybe we should talk with. Try to convene everyone together to see if it's possible to build a much wider Eruv that would encompass. And not only do we not have the Eruvs are different. The Maryland Eruv is one Eruv. The Eruv in my neighborhood is another Eruv, and the Eruv in Fondren is another one. So those are there's nothing stopping it other than the will to do it.
Because I'd like it to include Brith Shalom as well in the Eruv.
Sure, yeah, that's a great idea. Yes.
Just a thought. Thank you.
Project. Toda. All right, Hannah Sasson.
No, I don't have a question.
Oh, okay, wonderful. All right, thank you for being here then. So Rabbi Gelman, Toda Rabah for your
my pleasure.
For your interview. I appreciate it very much, and I appreciate your friendship and your support and conversation. We meet with an Orthodox rabbi, a conservative rabbi, and a Reform rabbi. I meet for coffee. Rabbi Silk and Rabbi Gelman and I occasionally go out for coffee, and it's an important part of my rabbinate, an important part of Brith Shalom community to be able to reach out to the entire community, the Orthodox community and the Reform community, and be a part of that community spirit. So thank you for your connection.
Thank you. Can I say something in closing? I want to just tell all the wonderful Brith Shalom people on this call that I absolutely love your rabbi. And he is a great friend. He took me out to buy shoes after they flooded the first time, after the first flood, Memorial Day. He drove by my house like on Shabbos at 10 in the morning. He's like, how's it going? I'm like, I'm okay. I'm good. I don't think they have any shoes. He's like, get in the car. Went shoe shopping, but that's not why. That just popped into my mind. He is a great friend. He is an awesome rabbi. He is incredibly thoughtful about bringing all of you the most spiritually meaningful experiences and educational and religious and davening experiences possible. He gives so much thought to all of this. He makes the rest of us rabbis better rabbis and look bad all at the same time. And I could not be happier to have him as a friend and as a mentor. And hopefully we'll have many years together in Houston. So thank you, Rabbi Teller, for everything.
Thank you. And Rabbi Gelman, so wonderful to see you.
Nice to see you all. So many friends. So nice to know that I have friends in other congregations just in case it doesn't work out over at UOS. We'll have somewhere to daven.
Can't wait to
Rabbi
get back to
Gelman?
doing more.
Tell Gabby hello, please.
I will. Thank you, everybody. Thank you,
There
Rabbi
were
Teller.
a lot of questions in the chat. If somebody wants to write them down for you, or that some of them you covered, like Young Israel and United Orthodox, because that was one of mine. But there's some other questions in there.
If you send them to me, I'll answer them.
Peter probably is jealous of your library also. Y'all could switch.
By the way, these are the books I've read. I just want you to know that. I've read every single one of these.
Peter's read all his books also.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, Leslie and Sandy, you there still? Hello?
What did you